This video is going to cover Chapter 9, Plan Sheet Production in Open Roads Designer, Exercise number 2, Full Profile Sheets. So I'm going to go over to my Word document, navigate down to the start of exercise number 2, the Full Profile Sheets. First thing it wants us to do is create a new 2D file named name, boundary, full profile, job number, and then the route that it represents. So I'm going to copy this information. I'm going to go over to Power Geopack and I'm going to do a file new. So under File, New. Two things I'm looking at is, one, where am I going to store this file? I don't want it in my Plan Sheets folder because that's the last chapter I was working with. So I'm going to change it. Hit the change button. Make sure it's in my Data 9 folder. That's where we keep our container files. So I'll change it to Data 9. I'll verify that I do have a ORD Design Seed 2D file. I do. Now I'll do is cross through that name and do a paste. And again, you get 2 DGNs unless you do the backspace. That gets rid of that space at the end of it, and then everything matches up. So it'll be a blank, brand new, empty container file. I will check in my previous file. And we should be in a blank document. Still loading. So I'm going to take my Power Geopack and minimize it a little bit so that we can see the Word document and carry on with the exercise. Okay, so that was number 1. Number 2 says, or step 2 says, step 2 is actually 3 right now. I don't know what happened. I'll have to go back and fix that. I'll do it now. And then I'll have to do some minor adjustments here. That out there. That there. And that should be good. So from the reality modeling workflow, we want to set our GCS. So let's do that. Over in Power Geopack, we'll have to change our workflow. We're going to go from Open Roads Modeling down to Reality Modeling. We'll open that up. You'll see that there's a geographic button out here now. It looks a little different than yours because right now I have mine, minimized. So the icons look a little different. But that's what I'm after, is that last little icon there. I'm going to select it. And I'm going to go ahead, and you've got a couple options. You can do it from new, from the library, or you can do it from file. We've got files out there that have it already attached, so I'm going to go out and select one of them in my Data 9 folder. I'm going to hit that Corridors Route 54, open. You'll get 2 models, the default and the default 3D. The coordinates have been applied to both of them, so it doesn't matter, so I'll just hit OK. OK. And then you'll see it's applied to our dialog. We're good to go. So we'll close that out. And then we want to reference in our corridor. And we're going to use a live nested depth of 1. So back over here, I want to change it from reality modeling. I'll go to Open Roads Modeling, Home tab, and then there's the reference icon. So I'm going to use that reference icon. Come out. I'm going to do a Tools, Attach. And we're looking for that corridor for Route 54 because that's where all this plan sheet's going to come off of. All the project's been done. We just want to create some plan sheets off of it now. So here we are, corridors. I'll add it and then hit OK. This next dialog is the important one because here's where I can change that to nested depth of 1. If I do 0, all I'm going to get is my corridors Route 54. If I do 1, I'll get that corridors Route 54 and all the files that are attached to it. Okay, so using a nested depth of 1 works for these container files, meaning we're not going to do any work in these files. We're just using them to create plan sheets, or like we do in the cross-section files, do the same thing there. So I'm going to hit OK. You see you have one file attached. Hit the Fit View button. You can see in the background we've got a lot more files that came across. If you use this hierarchy button over here on the left, show hierarchy, if you use that, you'll be able to see the file that we're in. Hit the plus sign. The referenced file, hit the plus sign one more time, and then all the files that make up that reference, all the geometry that makes up the corridors Route 54. Okay, so I'm done with this. The next thing it wants us to do, step number 4 says turn on and off levels as desired before processing the plan sheets. And I can't stress this enough, that if you cut it without turn off levels, you'll end up having to go through your plan sheets and turn them off in each individual file. But if you know of some levels that you really don't want to see, you can turn them off now. So again, I'll go up to the primary tools in my home tab, hit that level display, and I'm going to simply right click over the blue area here and do a off by element. So usually you don't want to see your template drop, so I'm going to get rid of 54 template drop. And you see some ramp 4s are in here. We'll turn them off as well. You also see an in-condition exception. Let's go ahead and turn that level off. I really don't care to see it in my plan sheets. I see the corridor and all the handles for Route 54. I'm going to turn them off as well. And the rest is at your discretion. I'm going to get rid of these lines that were created from our 3D file or 3D lines. And if I go back into the area of ramp 4, my super elevation section is showing, so I'm going to turn it off. And then I can turn off these other lines that came across with the 3D stuff. Okay, I got limits of construction in here, and that's up to you if you want to turn them on or off. I'm going to go ahead and turn them off for this exercise. The model or the corridor for the ramp 54 or ramp 4, and then that other limits of construction. So basically all I'm showing here is I want to see my edge of pavements, edge of shoulders, my right-of-way lines, I'll leave them in there, and my civil geometry, so my alignment information. I'm good to go on this. I'll go ahead and close out the level display. Step 5 says in the view attributes, verify the toggle is on for the constructions. So we'll go to our banner, hit the pull down, and come down a little ways, and you can see that constructions are on. And what this is for is when we create name boundaries out here, you will see them. If you don't have them on, you won't see them. So constructions are good to be on. They don't plot or anything, so it's good to go. So what we need to do now is we need to open a profile model in order to create the profile sheets. Okay, and this is a lot different than what we used to do in SS4, SS2. It's we're going to go out here, we're going to hit the F4 key, and then we're going to right click and hold for a second in a blank area. We're going to go to our view control, and we're going to go down to views, plan and profile. We'll select this, and it's going to give us this open dynamic profile view. I'm going to hit OK. And then the next option it says is locate the plan element. So I want to hit that center line. So I select it, and now it says select or open a view. Well, we've got view 4 open, ready for it, so I'm going to go ahead and left click in there. And you can see it nicely came across. Now we've got the profile to that alignment in this view 4. So over in the instructions, it said to go through, click the OK and everything. The reason I didn't go to the manuals because this is, you know, through trial and error, I've found out that if you leave the tool and do something else and come back, it will not give you this window. So it's best just to complete the stages to get that profile to show up. So before I was scrolling down and showing the option of what to do next, and we went through it. So okay, we selected the plan element, we selected the view to place it in, and it looks just like that. So far so good. Next thing we want to do is open our drawing production tab from the Open Roads Modeling Workflow and select Name Boundary Tool. Okay, so we'll go up to our workflow, change it to Open Roads Drawing Production. We'll go to the Drawing Production tab. And then we'll go off to the right here, and there's an icon that says Place Name Boundary. That's the one we want. So we'll go ahead and select it. Okay. Okay, let's see what it says here. Dialog. You can do fill the dialog out. And I do it there's a couple different ways of doing it. I'll just follow the flow here. Is what I do is I'll pick my civil profile, which is this icon right here, civil profile. I will change my drawing seat. I want to see a full profile. So I'll select that. The scale we're going to use on this is 1 inch equals 50. Like so. And then the next part of it, what I like to do is go out and select alignment. So you'll have to make the default view, the view number 1, active. And when you do that, now you're able to go over and pick that alignment. And when you do, oh, my bad. You want to be in view 2, and you want to pick the alignment down here. So what you'll do is you'll come out to this dialog, and once you place that information in the top here, you'll come down into view 2, and you're going to select the proposed alignment or the proposed profile. So we'll select it. It fills out the dialog the way we want. So it gives us, we want it from station limits, so we're going to change our method from plan group to station limits, which will allow us to give a beginning start station. So we'll go ahead and hit the button all the way to the end, and it started there. We're good. The length is not to be toyed with. You can see in this dialog over here with the screenshot, all this shaded areas or things that don't need to be touched. This, if you mess with the length, it won't fit in your sheet anymore and causes all kinds of issues. Now, the vertical exaggeration needs to match, and if I go over to the dialog here, or the manual here, and I scroll down, you'll see that here's the vertical exaggeration. It's set to appropriate scale. So if it's a 20 scale, it will be set to 2, 50 scale 5, 100 scale 10, and 20 scale for the 200. Ours is 5, so if it's not 5, change it to 5. Go back to this dialog. So far we've got everything picked, and we are down to, we'll use our active vertical, everything's good. So we'll read our get down to here. Again, it's telling you not to change any of these informations in here, because if you do, it will not fit in your sheet. And then once it's filled out, then all we have to do is follow our heads up prompt. So our status bar down there, it tells us to accept or reject. I'm going to accept, and you can see it's placing a boundary. If I zoom out a little bit with my mouse, you can see you can place all the way up to 4 different profile sheets. And I'll go to right here. Go ahead and left click. Now again, you have to accept that placement of the boundary. So we'll accept it. And there's our boundaries. Now, you can lock in that stop station just like we did the start station. The tools right now don't allow us, we can move them, but they don't move as they're attached. So what you have to do is, the only thing that you can do would be able to adjust a profile, and that would just do vertically. That's all it would do. So you'd be able to move this border up or down, but it does a pretty good job of placing them in there. Yeah, let's see what these notes say here. Currently, the clipping shapes will not dynamically follow along the alignment. And there's no option to move the preceding and following clipping shapes with the clipping shape being moved. When placing the profile clipping shapes from the plan group method, there is no option to lock the profile clipping shapes with the plan clipping shape. So if you move a plan clipping shape, the profile shape will not follow along with it. So that's a little heads up for when we get to plan a profile. If you move the plan, the profile is not going to follow. Okay, now that we've got our profile clipping shapes created, we can start the process to create the profile sheets. To do that, we want to go back into Power Geopack, our Open Rows Designer, and then we're going to go to Drawing Production, and under our Name Boundaries ribbon over here, you're going to see that Name Boundaries Manager. So we're going to select it, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit, move this over. So we want to make sure this button is toggled on so we get the next dialog. The second dialog in this is very important. Okay, you can set up all your text scales and stuff like that. So we've got that. Now the next thing we want to do is expand out the profile groups and right click and do a create profile. So when I go to my profile groups, I select it. I can even select the arrow again to see how many sheets I'm going to have. I'm going to have 3 sheets here. And you can toggle on or off as if you didn't want to make a sheet, you can turn it off. But we're going to do them all 3. Again, you select it, you can hit the icon up on the toolbar here, which is create profile drawing, or you can right click and get create profile drawing from here as well. So I'll just select it here. And here's the all important sheet or dialog that we need. First off, we want to place these 1 sheet per DGN. If this was off, it would create all these profile sheets in our models. So we want 1 per DGN. Next thing is to path out to the sheet, plan sheet folder. So I'm going to select it. And data 9, there's plan sheet. I'll hit OK. I always like to check it. There it is, plan sheets. The next part is we need to give it a name. Okay, it gives us a default name that pops in here, but you can see there's spaces in between there, and we don't want that because our plotting routine does not like that at all. So we're going to go through and copy from the manual, and we'll paste it in here into the input field. So now when it creates the sheets, it's going to go Route 54, the job number, profile 1, 2, 3 as it goes. Okay, so this part at the top's pretty much good to go. We want to verify we have a D-size full profile sheet, which we do. Here's 2 important ones down here. As you can see, with the square around in the dialog, it tells you it's important. We're going to change our scale to 1 inch equals 50. And then, really important one, do you want to see your profile grid? And we do, so we're going to hit this annotation group pull down. And then we're going to navigate from profile, drawing, and we want a profile 50 scale grid. So now when we plot our profiles, we'll get that grid in our drawing model. The last part is to make sure that this says 1 inch by 50 by the name boundary, which it does, so we're good. And then the last part of it is also the open model. So it'll open the last sheet that it creates. So I'm going to hit OK and let it process through. And I can come over here and make sure all that's good. It looks good. It's going to get to a point where we want to update the server copy and then check in the file. Now, we haven't talked about editing these sheets yet as far as adding information to them and doing clippings and stuff like that. I'm saving it for the last chapter in this chapter 9, the last chapter of it. So update server copy. Then we'll want to check in. Okay, so we'll do a check-in. wait. Okay, again, you're going to get this information because we're creating new sheets. It's going to have to move some things around, but ProjectWise does a fine job of it. All you have to do is hit close. Name boundaries tool's worthless in this sheet, so we'll go ahead and close it out. Okay, so here's what your plan profile sheet looks like. Again, later on I'm going to talk about how you can change that border to black or whatnot if you need to. It comes with a couple models here. You know, if you go down to the bottom or if you go up to the home tab and hit the model tool, you'll see you have a plan sheet model with the white paper, or drawing model with a gray folded paper. Again, to get into that drawing model, you would just double click on it. It brings you in there. And then here's what the drawing model looks like. So this is where you would come in and put your labels. You put your scale in here or whatever else you need to add to it. It would always go in the drawing model and never in that sheet model. So I go back to my sheet model. Again, it's that white paper, and I'm using the view commands down at the bottom. And it brings me back into this view. And that concludes exercise number 2.